23 years ago, Paul Keating stood here alongside the Union giant Jim Comerford to unveil this wall of names. As it honours Jim, this memorial wall makes one very simple request of us: to remember before God the men and boys who gave their lives in the Northern District mines. Jim saw himself some of those lives cut short. Way back in 1929, he was a 15-year-old pit boy, and he bore witness to the Battle of Rothbury, in which police opened fire on protesting miners who'd been locked out of their jobs. Jim survived the bloodshed that day, but it shaped his view of the world forever. As Prime Minister Keating unveiled this memorial all those decades later, he described Jim as following: quite simply a Labor legend, the embodiment of Labor's greatest ideals, of solidarity and the pursuit of justice for working men and women. Jim would have hoped that as we gathered here nearly a quarter of a century later, that we would be done with adding names to this wall. Sadly, that job is not yet behind us. There is a fresh name for this saddest of roles, and that name is Quinton Moore. On November the 3rd last year, Quinton went to work at Bengalla mine, just over an hour's drive up the road from here, near Muswellbrook. It was a bit before 8 p.m. on that spring evening when Quinton went to do some maintenance on one of the mine's vehicle tyres. It was just routine, just another day at work, except that it wasn't. This is dangerous work. Things went terribly and fatally wrong. Quinton was just 37. He's left a hole in the community, of which he was a popular and respected member. And most achingly, he's left a chasm in his family. So to Quinton's widow, Shannon, and to all the members of Quinton's family here today, we join with you. Some among us can more closely imagine your grief than others, but all of us are here with you. I know that some wounds are beyond even the healing powers of time, that there are absences that can never be filled, but I hope that you can draw some comfort from knowing that you are never alone. You have this community standing right beside you. You have the compassion and love of the union and the greater Labor movement. And of course, you have that other family, the mining family, a family that feels every death keenly in its heart. And it is indeed a family, because to be a coal miner isn't just another job. You do this with pride, you do it with purpose, you do it with a powerful sense of identity and solidarity, inherited from those who went before you, including those that we honour on this wall. It is forged into something even more powerful as you wrestle with the challenges and obstacles you still find in your way. And you do it in the face of dangers of which you are only too aware. Yes, the safety record has improved radically, but the risks do remain. Gas, explosions, floods, roof collapses, equipment failure. Few workplaces give such an unforgiving edge to the concept of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. You are part of one of the toughest of traditions. You stand almost as a breed apart. Even at a time when our nation is so alive and uncertain, with the tides of change and transition, those who lift the coal out of the earth have a powerful sense of who they are. The father of one of my mates was a coal mining engineer, very happily lured to Australia by a coal job not far from here in the Hunter. By 1979, he was working further south and was a regular underground at Appin. It was the luck of the draw that he wasn't rostered on that bleak July night when methane and electric spark came together to create a hell beneath the earth. Even towards the end of his days, he still thought about his mates who weren't so lucky. 14 men gone in a flash. But despite everything, he still loved the mines. He loved being a miner and was proud of it. Decades after he walked out of the pit for the last time, he's still identified as a miner. It's a pride so many of you carry with you into the great open cut mines or down the shafts into that other world beneath us. You are right to be proud, given how much you have contributed to this nation's growth and prosperity. You've done it together, carrying the memories of past generations, working together to ensure conditions are better than they were for those who mined before you. This great union embodies that most Australian of principles that is at the heart of our great labour movement. Caring for each other, not just ourselves. It is one of the most real challenges that there is. No wonder coalface, the term, has passed into common use. We use it as a slang term for the place where real, actual work gets done. No wonder coal miners have a reputation for being such straight talkers. It's a reputation that recognises neither border nor language barrier. In the recent TV series Chernobyl, which depicted the Soviet nuclear accident, who cut through the tangle of bureaucratic lies? It was the coal miners, just as they did in real life, cutting through the falsehoods as surely as they cut through the rock beneath the crippled reactor. They were down-to-earth blokes who stood tall when so many either could not or would not. In the midst of a very modern catastrophe, they embodied timeless values. Those miners would have recognised kindred spirits here in the Northern District coalfields. It's been a long journey since mining started here in 1817. Unionism has been part of most of that journey. The drive to come together and organise and fight for the rights of working men and women to safety, proper conditions and decent work started very early here. And it started with a momentum and an energy that has not wavered. It's embodied in not just the union officials, but the delegates and rank and file activists today. We're surrounded by so many reminders of why that had to be. Travel a short way down the road from here and you'll find many of them in the old Wallsend Cemetery. Among them, David Adamson, who was just on the cusp of adulthood when he was buried beneath a fall of coal in 1869. William Syme and John Mitchell, both claimed by a gas explosion in 1873. James Brown, who left behind a widow and 8 children when he was killed in 1878. That cemetery is a stark reminder that death did not discriminate in the mines. It took veteran miners and novices alike. It killed those who had just started out and those who were close to hanging up their picks for the very last time. It killed with collapsing rock and coal. It killed with explosion and fire. It killed with falling tree and rolling wagon. It killed with floating dust and runaway skip. It killed men with craggy faces. It killed boys so young that no civilised society should ever have allowed them anywhere near those pits. And each of those deaths left behind its tragic shards. The widows and fatherless children, the heartbroken parents, the shattered families. Among them were even women who were widowed more than once, and families who lost more than one member. The old Wallsend Cemetery is just a small snapshot of what happened right across the Northern District coalfields, and newer cemeteries keep receiving the coal industry's dead. This wall we're gathered by today performs the crucial service of keeping the full picture firmly in our minds and, more importantly, in our hearts. Let your eyes wander slowly across the sea of names etched here. Some of the people those names belong to are long gone. Some are people you knew. Some are people you knew closely. Some are people you loved and love still, even they are physically at least absent from your life. They're all here, their names held before us. More than 1,800 names. 1,800. Each one of them, not just an individual human being, but a member of a family, a neighbourhood, and a community. More than 1,800 men and boys, and sadly in recent years women too. More than 1,800 human beings who lived and loved and were indeed loved in return. More than 1,800 people who left terrible gaping holes in their worlds when they were so randomly snatched away. More than 1,800 individuals who left empty places at dinner tables and family photos, whose birthdays lingered on as perhaps little more than a sad circle on a calendar and a visit to a grave. All those years unlived. All that potential untapped. All those plans unfulfilled. All those dreams undreamt. All that promise forever broken. All that love ungiven. All those children suddenly denied a parent, left for the rest of their lives to wonder what might have been. Before the Union drove the push to finally bring an end to the crime of child labour, something Australia can be proud of we achieved before Great Britain. There were all those children who never got to grow up. The youngest of the dead that we remember here is Robert Irving, a driver boy killed at the Cooperative Colliery at Plattsburgh in 1883. Robert was just 11 years old. 11. He had barely tasted life. He never got to live as a teenager, let alone a man. As you let your eyes move across those more than 1,800 names, try to imagine their faces here amongst us right now. We hold them in our memories as best as we can, and the simple but loving act of putting their names on this wall means they will never, ever slip away from us. We join here in grief, a grief that may slowly soften, but will never fade until we ourselves do. We hold each other as we hold on to their memories. We join as a movement. We join as one family. The Union represents so much of that spirit. When it comes down to it, what is a union in the end but a community of working people, their families, and their community. As we look at all those names, we give thanks that their ranks do not grow at the remorseless and terrible rate that they used to. But sadly, they still do grow, and one is one too many. So much work has been done to improve things by miners, their unions, by management and mine owners. Our movement has worked tirelessly towards that most fundamental of outcomes, that a miner can leave home to start a shift, confident that the end of that shift will see them coming home again. But as Quinton's death so harshly reminds us, we're not there yet. We'll keep working towards that. I believe that one day we will achieve it, but we will gather here still, long after this wall has been given its last name, and we will remember each and every one of them.